This is the regular meeting of the Woodbridge Conservation Commission, July 2nd, 2026. And we welcome listeners who are here on video and also people who are here to make public comment. I'm calling the meeting to order. Let's approve minutes and then let's hear what you guys have to say. Does anyone have any comments about the minutes? I do.
Okay.
The spelling of Susmitha.
Yeah, and sent me the
Okay.
changed.
All right, great. Other than that, I didn't notice anything. Did anyone else?
Looks good.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept.
And I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Minutes are approved. Okay, so public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak? And I think people have about 3 minutes. Please sign in, write your address, and we're appreciative that you're here, but we're not responding to anything you say tonight.
Sign
I wrote a sheet, so. Oh, you also need to tell all of us your name and.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Anoka Faruqi, and I'm at 46 Acorn Hill Road in Woodbridge. My husband David and I are artists with a design-build history and a commitment to conservation. So we're offering you the beginnings of a draft proposal as a test case of what could be accomplished when constituencies with different interests come together through an inclusive design process. We had been imagining for some time how to work with Bethwood on improving the site at Acorn Hill. This particular presentation was catalyzed further after learning about 2 proposals. Bethwood Baseball's proposal for field lighting and the solar array proposal on the capped landfill. Adding light to a dark space contiguous to protected and ecologically rich lands is not part of this proposal. We're trying to build bridges between enthusiastic solar advocates and skeptical opponents of industrial solar who treasure open vistas and green space. The neighborhood of Acorn Hill has worked hard to create open vistas design, capped landfill, and baseball fields on the site. We believe we can face the climate future with renewable energy that engages ecology, the neighborhood, and the history of the site. Regarding costs, we embrace a Kaizen mindset as an approach to design and build where continuous, incremental, low-cost changes build toward an overarching design goal. Our hope is to pursue this vision as a means to bring both revenue and visibility to our town. So there are multiple visions for Acorn Hill. Residents have spoken of the magic of night baseball under lights. Organized sports builds resilience and lasting communities. Another resident remembers a different Acorn Hill. As a child, there were pools of water so still and clear that the boundary between air and water disappeared. Fish appeared suspended above the forest floor. Those pools are gone now, silted over by the landfill, tainted by leachates that continue to move through the surrounding watershed. Can this natural jewel be redeemed? Can these visions coexist while respecting neighbors? Beneath them lies the same desire, connection to one another and to the outdoors. At a time when children move between home, school, and activities almost exclusively by car, spending more time indoors and on screens than any generation before them, places like Acorn Hill matter deeply. Children themselves understand what is missing. A 2025 Harris poll reported by The Atlantic found that when 8 to 12-year-olds were asked how they preferred to spend time with friends, the largest group chose unstructured in-person play. Then, organized activities like baseball, while socializing online ranked last. Discussion of Acorn Hill to date has been framed as baseball versus neighbors, development versus preservation. We believe these are false choices and are advocating for a broader vision, one that seeks to bring together the interests of neighbors, children, conservationists, and taxpayers. We envision Acorn Hill not simply as a collection of athletic fields next to a landfill, but as a civic landscape where every investment serves multiple purposes. Acorn Hill occupies a unique position connecting the Ansonia Reservoir, Naugatuck State Forest, and Elderslie Preserve. It supports a remarkable range of wildlife from box turtles and eastern worm snakes to coyotes, bobcats, bears, hawks, ravens, and eagles. So we're imagining a community connected by trails, open spaces, and shared destinations. We're imagining children arriving by bicycle, neighbors meeting while walking, and families spending an afternoon outdoors. Imagine hearing cheers from a baseball game and later listening to spring peepers emerge at dusk while watching a sunset over a meadow as night settles on the landscape. Because of the long-term advocacy from neighbors, the Acorn Hill parcel was protected under an open space grant in 1974, realizing an open vistas concept. Today, the fields and meadows themselves offer something increasingly rare: expansive, uninterrupted views of forest and sky. The question is whether we will see it only through the lens of its label, the dump, transfer station, or recognize its potential for the future. We're inspired by spaces such as Highline in Manhattan and Fresh Kills Park in Staten Island, which integrate design and ecology to heal sites once profoundly degraded, now thriving habitats and treasured spaces. I think I'll end there.
Thank you.
Hi, David Driscoll of 46 Acorn Hill Road, Woodbridge, Connecticut. We envision a network of low-cost trails linking the surrounding neighborhoods to Acorn Hill, creating a destination within the trails town system. Children could walk or bicycle to activities. Families could access open space without adding traffic, and visitors could enter from several points rather than a single parking lot. The result would be greater independence, less congestion, and stronger connections between neighbors. In the open meadow, adjacent but inadequate removed from the baseball fields, we envision a modest but architecturally significant pavilion. Its design could evoke a New England saltbox barn, a beautiful utilitarian structure rooted in Woodbridge's history. Solar panels could act as a sloped pavilion roof. Additional solar canopies could cover parking areas, roadway approaches, possibly the transfer station itself. Additional and even bleacher seating with engineered protection from ball strikes, providing shade, reducing heat while generating clean energy and revenue, all while minimizing consumption of open green spaces. These features, along with improved restroom facilities, would serve baseball families, hikers, equestrians, cyclists, bird watchers, and neighbors while providing gathering space and educational opportunities. Revenue would support maintenance, stewardship, and tax relief. Every intervention should serve multiple purposes. Trails improve recreation while reducing congestion. Solar on top of existing hardscapes and structures provide shade while generating clean energy and revenue. Gathering spaces and vistas support Bethwood and broader community use. The same thinking applies to ecological restoration. Gradual, low-cost changes in mowing practices could suppress invasive grasses and encourage native species already on site. Supplemental seeding would further increase biodiversity. Over time, portions of the site would resemble the native meadow landscapes that once existed in a mosaic of forests throughout southern New England. Besides supporting wildlife, deep-rooted native grasses would stabilize the landfill, prevent erosion, cleanse our waterways, improve drought resilience, and sequester carbon much more efficiently than the non-native Eurasian cool season grasses currently dominating the site. The meadow restoration would enhance ecological complexity while creating a more resilient, vibrant, and beautiful landscape. A simple network of mown pathways within the meadow, akin to a simplified corn maze, would encourage childhood exploration and discovery. Such improvements would cost very little. Nature is not simply land we own. It's something we inherit and temporarily steward. Acorn Hill can be a place where children play, families gather, neighbors connect, meadows bloom, and public investment serve multiple generations. We offer these ideas not as opponents of baseball, community investment, or solar, but as advocates for a broader and more integrated future. One that unites recreation, restoration, renewable energy, and stewardship within an integrated vision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Elliot Mello. I am 11 years old. I'm an incoming 7th grader on my way to AMA Middle School. I am a resident of Woodbridge and I live at 70 Acorn Hill Road. I would like to share my opinion about the proposal for the LED lights at the Acorn Hill baseball field. One of the things that concerns me is that the LED lights may create an absurd amount of light pollution that will potentially alter the way of living for the surrounding animals by mimicking the effects of the daylight during the nighttime. Another concern that I have about the LED lights is that the nocturnal birds often found in my neighborhood, like owls and night jars, could be confused and stressed due to the lights. These birds use the stars to identify their location, and the brightness from the lights could alter their ability to see the stars. When my family and I moved to Woodbridge from New York, I fell in love with the many animals crawling on the ground in my backyard, flying through the sky and sometimes even sneaking on my arms. I love the wildlife for their freedom and unique abilities. Wild animals are special and worth protecting. I love the wildlife because we came from it and it is part of us. I want to protect the wildlife of Woodbridge because they deserve to be loved and respected as we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not sure if I can follow that up. He's my next door neighbor. And by the way,
State your name and your
Bob
address.
Hill, 68 Acorn Hill Road.
Thank you.
So, he actually Elliot was in this room not too long ago receiving the superintendent's award. He's a
Oh.
pretty smart young man. Okay. I'm just going to provide you minutes from the June 14th, 1995 Board of Selectmen meeting. There's, I think, a couple other meetings in here. There's a November, some excerpts of that, where basically the Board of Selectmen approved the use. They approved the use of the ball fields being built prior to certain conditions, which were no lights, no sound systems, no signage, and no ATVs. There's been some dispute about that ordinance because it didn't fully get through ordinance, although there was a lot of interpretation out there because there's already a zoning, in our zoning, floodlights aren't allowed in that zone anyway. ATVs did get the prohibited did get enacted. The sound system hasn't been dealt with, and the signage, they did get permission for some of the signage that they put out there. But what's interesting in looking at these minutes here, Charles Griffith, who was he was a member of the baseball committee when they designed this, and a former captain at the school, actually expressed his concerns that the fields be designed maintaining the vistas that were originally envisioned with this. So there's a number of comments in these minutes that you probably should take a look at, because the vision that Anoka and David talk about was originally the vision that was thought about here. So, you know, we hope that you'll also support that. I live obviously in the area. I served on the baseball board for 20 years. I happen to know that the need, there's really not a need, okay? Interesting, I was looking on the website, and there's a baseball league that the town plays in the summer called the Nutmeg Youth Baseball League. And they have their championship game, it's, you know, in the summer, somewhere near the end of July, for about 40 different towns. And there's a U9 division, U10, U11, U12. And they choose to hold the championship game at the most most beautiful field that they can find. And you know where that is? Acorn Hill. And there's no lights, okay? So hopefully I'm sure from a conservation standpoint, I don't think I need to explain much further to you about why this is important. Thank you so much for having us here and listening to us, and appreciate some of the support that all of you have already provided to us already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Andres. I'm at 549 Amity Road in Woodbridge. I was just voicing a comment tonight in support of the vision that David and Anoka are offering. I was really struck by how comprehensive it is, and it's something that I think the town can really benefit from looking at, both preserving the resources we have and restoring things that have been compromised. And I'm very concerned about the proposal for lighting at Acorn Hill for similar reasons, because we already have extensive light pollution along the whole East Coast. I'm interested to hear the presentation tonight, and I wanted to formally advocate for more comprehensive guidelines for the town to be in line with dark sky friendly lighting throughout the town. I'm concerned if lighting happens at Acorn Hill, what does that mean for other sites across town? How will they be impacted? And thinking about that as a whole, because things often happen piecemeal. And I see like there are these new lights that have been installed around town center with the new pathways, and they have a charming effect, and they've been touted as dark sky friendly. But at the same time, nothing was done to mitigate the light pollution from the road lights surrounding them. So in effect, we have created more lighting in our town center rather than actually doing something that seems to create less light pollution. And this is a highly solvable, preventable and solvable problem, where literally there are solutions like hoods for lights, directional lights, considering the temperature of lights is extremely important. There are partner organizations we could work with, Dark Sky International, Lights Out Connecticut, who'd be willing to work with Woodbridge, I'm sure, to create a comprehensive ordinance that would provide the resource of our unifying dark night sky. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marlon Teneri. I'm a resident of 74 Acorn Hill. It warms me to hear these folks show up here tonight. and share a vision for that property out there. I have a long history. My family has a long history out on Acorn Hill. That property that we're speaking about belonged to my great-grandfather, Charles Haddad, and Haddad Road is named after him. I can remember as a young boy hearing stories about my mom riding that vegetable wagon from the farm down Haddad Road into Ansonia Main Street selling the produce down there. And speaking with my 92-year-old mom this evening before I came here, I asked her what she would like me to share with the community. And she didn't know where to start. She said, it's been such a long road. And I said, what comes to your mind? And it just popped out of her mouth. She said, well, your Aunt Anna was born right out in that field where the ball fields are under an apple tree. She said, Grandma couldn't make it back to the house. She said she was born right there. She said, and you know, and this always can go on endlessly. So I think I first want to say thank you to everybody who shares a positive vision of that land, because that's certainly the vision my family has and that I had as a young boy growing up out there. I used to swim in the trout lake down from that landfill as a young boy. We drank at the spring that bubbled out of the hillside uphill from that lake. We traversed all the neighborhood and the forest around there as young boys. I heard about a vision that included interconnecting trails. Well, gosh, we never had that vision when we were kids. It just happened naturally. You know, we had bicycles. You couldn't get to neighborhoods because a country block is 4 miles long, but you go as the crow flies, it's a quarter mile. So we created our own trail network. I still remember as a boy, you ran it, you rode your bikes there, you just went through the woods like nature meant you to do. But as things progressed and over the years, a couple of my uncles, my grandma who owned that piece of the property, I remember they had a proposal because they wanted to haul sand and gravel out of there. And I remember they came in front of the town, and not without family opposition, because all my other aunt and uncles up there decided that was not a good idea. The town agreed with the rest of us and said, no, it would be inappropriate to haul sand and gravel out of there. And they denied the request, as they should have. And then shortly thereafter, I'm not quite sure the history, I was only 10 years old at the time, but I remember it being talked about, whether it was a straw man or whether it was just a contractor that came in, but somebody came in and made an offer on that property. They bought it from my grandmother and 2 uncles. Next thing you know, the town owns the property. First thing they did, started hauling sand and gravel out of there for several years, created a huge hole in that ground. What did they do after that? They filled it with garbage and everything else imaginable. And for 30 years, we watched that happen. Don't do as we say, don't do as we do as we say. Kind of broke our heart. It wasn't the best thing for our neighborhood. But as I grew older and watched what happened out there, I never forgot what it was and what it maybe still again can be. So 30 some odd years ago, I got involved with the neighborhood groups and we thought it was time to get that landfill capped. And we were instrumental in helping that happen. We were also instrumental in helping design the location of that transfer station that you see out there today. Town's design was to stick it right up front where all those donation boxes are. Made no sense. We tucked it down and back in the hollow where there's buffers and out of sight. And sometimes you just need to use common sense. You don't need to be an engineer or designer. You just need to think it through to do the right thing with land. So we helped that happen. And then after that went in, and we negotiated days and hours of restriction and so forth for child safety, busing. We did all that. In '95, they came up with a proposal for ball fields out there. And the neighbors were a little bit upset, and I thought about it, and I said, you know what? It would do my heart good to see something positive happen, to turn all this to something good for our community. And so I championed our neighborhood group, and we all agreed, let's get behind the ball fields, let's make it happen. Short window of opportunity for a state grant, which helped pay for those fields, plus what was left over to finish capping that landfill. And we turned that into the ball fields you see there today. And I'm proud of that. And I remember being part of those negotiations with Mr. Ingstrom, people, including Dwight Rowland from the Ball League and so forth. We all were part of this. And we agreed what the future vision was for that property. And part of that vision was that open vistas concept. I remember them saying, We'll be at one with nature, no fences, multi-use sports field in the middle, 2 open ball fields. It's gonna be beautiful. It's what we wanted to hear, and it's what we did. Over the last 30 years, and we had arrangements with the town as to what restrictions would be with lights and fences and loudspeakers and all these things, and I won't beat up on that except to say that, for the most part, they got everything they wanted. They've got fencing out there, they've got 2-story backstops, they've got grandstands, they've got batting cages, they've got 2 LED scoreboards, they've got toilets, storage buildings, and everything else they wanted. There's been no compromise, they just kept going and took whatever they wanted to. So we're kind of far off from that original open space and vistas concept that was envisioned back in '95, no question about that. We've learned to tolerate it and live with it simply because we understand it's good for our children and our community, so we're not objecting to that. But then I sit here and I listen to the idea that, hey, I think it's time we stick in 8 60-foot tall light poles so we can play night games.
So
And that's a
you're
whole
over
nother
5
discussion.
Just so you know, you're over 5 minutes, so can you wrap it up?
Sure. And then I listened to the ideas that they wanted to stick solar panels out there, which maybe isn't the best idea for various reasons. And I thought back to something my great-grandfather said to me. I remember asking him, how much property do you own? Where are we out here, Grandpa? I kind of get a feel for our boundaries as a kid. He said, let me tell you. He said, you might own the land. He said, but it doesn't belong to you. He said, you belong to the land. He said, any farmer or rancher will tell you that. And that's kind of where we're at. So I share the vision of open space concepts. I'd like to think that we could do something more positive than what's being proposed with that land. I think it would be better for our community, better for the environment. And sometimes the only thing you need to do to let land heal itself is nothing. Just do nothing, and nature takes care of itself. If we give it a little positive push in the right direction, you'd be amazed what can happen out there. So let's try to give it a positive push. But simply avoiding a negative is sometimes enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Anyone else interested in sharing? Okay, last call. Thank you for everyone for all your comments and your insights and your efforts, and we'll take it all under serious consideration. Thank you very much. Okay, that's the end of public comment. Let's see, where are we at? So, let's go on to what's happening. Does anyone have any thoughts about events that are coming up that we want to share with the public?
Great Woodbridge Picnic.
The Great Woodbridge Picnic on July 11th at 11 to 4, I think it is.
11 to 4.
Right here out on the green.
Not here on the green, over in the Grove,
Oh,
Cultural Center
Oh,
will be
over there.
open.
in that area.
okay. We might
In the
overflow.
library, in the Grove, there'll be picnics, there will be a food truck or two, but the new person who's going to be,
Here, bring the mic so you can
oh,
hear.
sorry, there'll be the new person in the cafe above. Still don't hear me? I'm on.
Now you're on.
Now I'm on, yeah. There will be children's games. There will be exhibits on various aspects of the town and a great deal to do with the history of the town. And people will be able to go in, although it's not officially opening on that day, you certainly will be in and out of that building, which is
The old firehouse.
the old firehouse.
Cool.
Right.
Great.
Now called the Community Cultural Center, CCC.
I guess an up-and-coming thing that we aren't sure of the date is nesting boxes building by the Trails people, the Conservation Commission, and maybe some Boy Scouts to create some nesting boxes. And actually hands-on building and hopefully putting them up before too long.
Yep, so we don't have a date yet, but at some point, if anybody works with Andy Danzig's trail crew, it's going to be through them. So if you get the trail emails, then you'll hear about these nesting boxes at some point in the future.
Any other things we want to share? No? Okay, moving on to old business. Report on the June 6 walks at the country club.
Can I
Oh.
ask a question? So is everybody sticking around for Marissa's presentation? Because could we just, maybe we want to move that.
Oh, is that why people are still here? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
We
so
will
why
move
don't
her
we
up.
move that into the, would you
Good
be willing to
idea.
go now? And then,
absolutely.
you guys are welcome to stick around afterwards too, but, we want to, do what you're here for first, and then you'll have the freedom to go or not.
Good idea.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Marissa.
Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. So I did a pretty comprehensive literature review on artificial lighting at night. There's a plethora of data and multiple papers and even some epidemiological studies about the implications of artificial lighting at night, which I tried to make a little bit more concise by breaking it down according to species. So I hope that it is informative and helpful, but bear with me for a moment. Okay. So as we all know, prior to the invention of the light bulb by Thomas Edison, the way the circadian rhythm, which is our sleep-wake cycle, was regulated was modulated by hormonal signaling. Everybody, I'm sure, has heard of melatonin as kind of the principal hormone involved in this, in addition to the light of the moon. And the reason why this is important is because there is a global issue where light pollution levels are rising at a rate of 2.2% per year. It is problematic in the sense of it disorienting numerous animals. It exposes animals to dangers such as predators, as well as exhaustion, starvation, and death, which we will elaborate on further. It is an increasing worldwide pressure for biodiversity, which contributes to habitat loss, as well as fragmentation, which impedes mating patterns for many mammals. The loss of the starlined sky is more of a risk than just the loss of stargazing, but it has grave health and environmental consequences. So in particular, I'm not going to get too granular with the science of it, but wavelengths matter in terms of how the brain perceives light and its impact on health. So blue wavelengths of light are particularly damaging to many life forms, as well as LED lights. Mostly the primary mechanism is the role of suppression of melatonin from these lights. Even small amounts of lights that shine into windows are enough to suppress melatonin production. So as far as non-human animals, nearly all plants and animals are adversely impacted by artificial light exposure, according to most of the research I found. It is pretty significant to consider that 60% of wild animals are nocturnal beings. So we'll discuss a few groups and how they're impacted. So birds, aviary species, many birds navigate during the night and become confused by nocturnal lighting, leading them to be killed because of colliding with buildings, as well as exhaustion because of the loss of their internal compass. One example is the snowy plover. This bird was actually a threatened species that avoided roosting on beaches in California because there was an adjacent power plant. Artificial lighting was so prominent, it was brighter than the light of a half moon, which precluded plovers from nesting as they need darkness because their open sand nests become vulnerable to nighttime predators. An adjacent power plant actually agreed to dim the lights, and subsequently nests began to appear on the beachfront, which had previously been barren, prompting further study of light pollution's harmful effects on wildlife. One interesting species that also depends on this circadian rhythm and light signaling via the hormonal pathway are hummingbirds, which are now in season. So most people have erroneously believed that hummingbirds are triggered to migrate back to warmer climates by the cooler temperatures, but it's actually through the melatonin signaling as the days become shorter. Migrator songbirds become disoriented through attraction to artificial light, losing their ability to calibrate their compass, as we talked about. Insects, this was another group that's quite interesting. They need darkness for procreation. The fireflies that we probably all enjoy watching, they are unable to visualize one another's bioluminescence due to light pollution. So even flashes of headlights can cause their mating flashes to disappear altogether. And those flashes of light are what these fireflies rely upon. Monarch butterflies that migrate, when they should be resting, the artificial light actually causes them to flutter, and they oftentimes become disoriented on their migration route, leading to death. And again, as we talked about, as we've all, I'm sure, seen, insects that circle lights over and over subsequently become exhausted, which leads to their demise. So this has real implications for birds who primarily feed on insects, known as insectivores, as well as a loss of food supply for humans, because insects are essential for pollination and food supply. There has been a 45% decline in insect populations over the last 4 decades alone, which has deleterious consequences for all of us. Insects that are attracted to headlights, for instance, will die immediately. Some, again, we talked about circling the lights. Foraging activity ends up becoming impaired as well, leading them to starve to death because of inefficient acquisition of food. Artificial lighting at night also impacts reproduction of insects. Reproductive success diminishes. Male insects that are exposed to excess artificial light at night actually become sterile. So to kind of summarize that, it can lead to food scarcity for bird species, bats, human mammals, as well as amphibians. Turtles are another species that are affected. Sea turtles in particular, even though I know we don't have sea turtles here, but their populations have declined because they instinctually follow the light of the moon on the water to once they hatch. And so sea turtle hatchlings instead turn inland, where they can be killed by motor vehicles, and obviously it's not the sea where they should be headed. Box turtles are a species of special concern due to their population decline as well, and they are vulnerable to artificial light because they are increasingly visible to predators. Fish, lighting also affects their migration patterns and where they return to spawn. One example would be the interference of spawning for grunion, and juvenile salmon actually end up being more vulnerable due to being attracted to artificially lit patches of water where other predators like heron have an opportunity to feed on them. Mammals, so now this is kind of our last point, but mammals such as bats, they will not pass illuminated areas as they then become exposed to owls and other birds of prey. So lights that shine close to roosts of light-sensitive animals cause them to delay appearing at dusk, where there's an abundance of insects for them to feed on. So oftentimes what will happen is bats will either abandon their roosts or entomb themselves and end up starving to death because they're awaiting darkness to come out and feed, but the darkness will never come in the presence of the artificial lighting. Bats are an ecologically important species. For one thing, they help maintain the insect population, which in turn affects us because we know mosquitoes are a vector for, West Nile virus, for instance, and bats help keep that population in check. Cougars are another population that were noted to be affected as well. They will stop by lights and because of lights, and what ends up happening is that affects their mating patterns. That's alluding to the discussion earlier about fragmented environments, so it's led to inbreeding within their populations, which is a problem. And humans, which I thought was really interesting, one untoward health impact that I stumbled upon over and over was hormonally linked cancers like breast, prostate, thyroid, and pancreatic cancer. And the proposed mechanism by which this occurs is that melatonin is an adjuvant to the immune system during sleep. So during sleep is when our bodies mobilize our immune system and destroy abnormal cells. There was an epidemiological study to explore the association of artificial light at night with all forms of cancer, using data from 158 countries, and found artificial light at night is significantly correlated not only with all forms of cancer, but also lung, breast, colorectal, and prostate cancers individually. And they've also done satellite. What was that? Oh. They've also done satellite imaging of Earth and correlate it with breast cancer incidence by zip code. And it showed that there was a 14% increased risk of breast cancer as compared to those areas exposed to less artificial light. Underscoring the importance of the sleep-wake cycle and highlighting the increased risk of malignancy. And another thing that's actually interesting too is they also studied epidemiology of malignancy in healthcare workers who work nocturnal shifts in hospitals and whatnot, and there's an increased rate of malignancy in those humans too. As far as plant life, their lives are adversely impacted because trees do not shed their leaves at appropriate times, as they're not prompted to, as the daylight hours seem deceptively longer, causing environmental stress, which shortens the lifespan of trees. And we all know that this will only further contribute to climate change. Just one interesting counterpoint for discussion, food for thought. People may purport that artificial lighting at night is helpful for safety on the roads, but in Britain, a 2015 study showed that there was no increase in motor vehicle collisions or crime when street lighting was reduced. This was in an effort to save money and decrease carbon emission. Removing light pollution reduces energy consumption, which further mitigates climate change. And former director of conservation for the International Dark Sky Association states, "Remember, there is no such thing as wildlife-friendly lighting. The best solution is no light beyond natural conditions. As soon as you turn the light off, the pollutant disappears from the environment and species can begin to return." So with that being said, and this is kind of an interesting graphic depiction, but it kind of shows, it's a satellite view of the Earth and how lighting has evolved since the 1950s. So 1950s, mid-1970s, 1997 to 2025. And I think we can all see how much of the Earth has become illuminated. Excuse me, not eliminated. And I did email the group a works cited page if anybody is interested in additional resources. Those are the works cited in this presentation, but also for your further reading. Thank you for your time.
That was very thorough, thank you.
That was great.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
So when do we have, this has sort of been in Coopop so far, right?
Sorry.
So the baseball field thing has been sort of in Coopop right now, and what's the process? Because we should have a chance to weigh in at some point.
Voted at their last meeting. Sorry, Coopop.
Everybody, 'cause you're all going like this and they can't hear my.
Okay.
Thank you.
At their last meeting, they did not accept or reject the lighting at the ball field, but passed it on to the Board of Selectmen. That's what this situation is now.
Okay, and is the BOS going to have a hearing on it or something, or?
I don't know what the process is at that point.
So I'm just wondering, we could maybe, pass a version of what you put together as a public comment or something from the Conservation Commission. Because I do think that,
Or even just a
The-
submission, not a public comment, but just
yeah,
our
just a,
It doesn't have to
information
be,
for them
our
to-
input, yeah,
it's just our position, or it could be part of our position.
yeah.
I would be interested in learning a little bit more about what the proposed lighting actually entails. They say that it will be turned off by 9 p.m., used primarily in the fall. I don't play baseball. I don't know what the season is. So does that mean going until the end of November, starting in August? These kind of details I think would be really relevant for us.
And those details you can find in the CUPOP meetings.
Okay.
They've been presented.
I would be a little concerned about any current proposed schedule for the lights, because once those lights are there, it's really easy to turn them on for longer. And, we kind of have to think about, 30 years from now, it could be just accepted at this point that those lights are on from, until, all year, all night, well, not all night, because we don't play baseball all night, but, I do, so Christina
Also-
made a very good point in her public comment that, light pollution, especially on the East Coast, is a major issue. And, this is just adding to that. So yeah, I do think what they're proposing now is relevant, but we have to kind of think about what's going to happen in the future as well.
Yeah, to echo what you just pointed out, as well as some of the individuals who made public comment, I do think it could be considered a slippery slope. The 1995 agreement had kind of said, even though it wasn't formalized, and I think because of this underlying light ordinance within the town, and now it's sort of, things kind of tend to happen under the radar in little bits, so.
So it could be our recommendation, if the current proposal is moderate in the light pollution that it produces, that we could propose that there is actually an ordinance.
No, there is not.
There is not.
But that could be our
Oh, it could
recommendation.
be that-
So that's it actually stops this from
ordinance
happening
could
in the
be
future.
created,
Because
yes.
it sounds like that's one of the biggest problems, is that the slippery slope has been demonstrated historically.
Well, I
Um,
actually think that's true, Michael, but I think that the slippery slope has already slipped a long way just with all the light pollution that already does exist, and this is an opportunity for us to take it on with people who are obviously advocates to create more education and more information about all sorts of people's home lights, their firehouse,
Well, I have another question which I should know the answer to, but I don't. And that is there any other ball field in town that does have lights?
yes, the high school, and it only allowed to have it 10 times a year. And,
It's only allowed to turn on their lights 10 times a year?
but I think another thing is parks are supposed to have everyone gone by dusk. So that would change this concept of what a park's time frame is, and does that set a change in precedent for other parks as well? So that's worth thinking about, like the unintended consequences, because they get harder to patrol.
know-
They're more.
I know that it was brought up in a CUPOP meeting by somebody that part of the problem that they have is that in the springtime, when they're practicing, they don't have enough daylight time between when school lets out and dusk. or darkness to do their practice. That was just a comment that was brought up about it, but we have to consider everything.
Well, could the practices be held during that time at the already lit bubble field?
I mean, well, they're only allowed to turn it on 10 times a year. But
could
the other
that-
thing is, could it occur on a Saturday, Sunday?
Pardon?
I mean, a lot of people accommodate the darkness in all sorts of ways to make things work, like, you know, a Sunday afternoon practice or something. I mean,
Frankly, that would probably stress most parents less as well, having to rush after work and.
it's a possibility.
I think if we were to provide a letter to the Board of Selectmen, then perhaps it should be a little broader than just these baseball fields, and if it's about lighting on public-owned lands in Woodbridge.
There's some really
it's a great point.
Lights Out Connecticut, I think it is, has a presentation which I talked about last year, having the person come because I went to their speech. It's really pretty fascinating, and you know, the bird, you know, just focusing on one aspect of it, the bird population has gone down by billions in the past 20 years, and this is a really major migratory pathway. So it's not. I mean, I know our ball fields or even our town are not an essential. You know, there's a lot of. But Westport, I haven't read the email someone sent me, but Westport has put a lights out ordinance on their, well, I don't know if it's an ordinance or recommendation, but they've chosen to be very respectful. And I think many other towns have. And it might behoove us, with our researcher here, to figure out what other towns have done and what we could really recommend.
And I also think we could consider emphasizing it even more during migratory season.
Yes, and that's, I think, a little
That's
bit of
even
the
more.
problem of the ball fields, is it interferes, it's sort of I don't know, but it's those times,
Correlates very
Yeah.
closely.
unfortunately. And also, it seems like they want 8 lights with 4, I mean, that's a lot of light. So I don't know anything about baseball either and how much light they actually need, but to have a practice, I mean, it seems like a lot of expense. Does anyone else have any other thoughts? What I think it leaves us with is an area of research to come and be more responsible stewards of this aspect of things and to do get some more knowledge so that we can be as helpful just for the whole, like you said, for the whole town. Yeah. I don't think this is happening very quickly. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's some time. It's not like a decision's gonna happen in the next month or two, I don't think. Does anyone know any
No.
differently
I
about
can't
that?
speak to that.
It's not
It's not?
quickly. No.
So maybe if we continue our research in the next month, we could be more informed?
So how will we know? When, do we have to wait for an agenda to come out and then, you know, like?
A lot of boards do not meet in August, so I don't know if they do or not.
Well, it might not take that much more research and just take another month to understand the implications, or at least the outline of the implications and the statistics around, you know, how it affects migratory pathways and stuff like that. And certainly I don't think any of us would be against their idea of making it more beautiful, more ecologically effective and efficient in Acorn Hill. So that aspect of it, which is sort of intertwined but connected to the lights, is something that I would think that we'd all be pretty enthusiastic about.
Yeah, sounded great to me.
Okay, so shall we move on? So where we're for a report on the June 6th walk on the Country Club Woodbridge. It's very brief. There were about 40 people there, or 30 or 40 people there. They were pretty interested and enthusiastic. They learned a lot about Country Club of Woodbridge and the ecological benefit of it. We got some of their names for people who are interested in being part of the Friends of Conservation, so that we can let them know if there's anything that, I mean, they might be a person to send, everyone to send this light pollution email to. You know, here's something we've researched and we can communicate. Okay, so let's put that link. updating and the updates concerning the DEEP Forest Resiliency Grant regarding the CCW and the Fitzgerald property. Ben?
Sure, I can give an update. So, what has happened since? So, okay, I guess maybe the most important thing is that the grant application is actually out. We have a due date. It's August 31st.
Okay.
So, and then we have the set of questions. It looked like a pretty standard set of questions, and then there was sort of a essay portion where you have to answer a bunch of things about. I can't remember off the top of my head, but so we'll have to put together some text for that, and then.
Okay.
And then
I have a
guess.
question, Ben. Do you think
yeah.
there's any benefit in terms of submitting it earlier, or it just doesn't, as long as it's in by the 31st, everyone has an equal chance?
I suspect, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we probably want to get it done. We probably want to plan to get it done earlier, just to give ourselves extra time and make sure
Yeah.
there's plenty of time to work with the town and stuff.
Usually with grants, it doesn't make, getting it in ahead of time
Yeah.
does not make any
Okay.
difference.
Mhm.
It just cannot be late.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe we should
But I
aim
think
for
Ben's
August
right.
12th
We
ourselves,
need to-
10th ourselves.
We need to work towards, say, August 20th or something like that, to
Mhm.
give us a little leeway.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so you guys went on the walk with Eric. Do you guys want to talk about that a little
Tag
bit?
teamed. Why don't you go first?
Yeah, we started off at Fitzgerald. It was delightful. I really enjoyed walking the woods with Eric. I happen to know him from a former life, but I've never walked through a forest with him like that. And just kind of looking at a forest through the eyes of a forester it's a very different way to walk through a woods. And so, I'll kind of keep it high level for now. So some of the things that he was looking at and proposing are, if you walk through the woods on the south side of the fields, the Fitzgeralds, all the trees are basically at the same level. There's a canopy. There's very little understory. So understory is 0 to 6 feet. Mid-story is 6 to 30, and canopy is above that. There's almost no understory. Mid-story is very homogeneous. It's almost entirely black birch, which he said will survive through just about anything. It is shade tolerant. It can deal with most conditions. And so his recommendation for most of the forest, which was in fairly good shape, he looked around, he's like, there's a lot of really healthy trees here, this is my interpretation, essentially punch a couple holes in the canopy. Take out, select some of the healthier trees, cut down some of the rest to allow the sunlight to reach the forest floor. And what this will do is it will allow the next generation of canopy trees, like the oaks and the tulip poplars, for example, to generate, because they are shade intolerant. And so when there's dense canopy, the next generation just doesn't grow. So that was kind of the general gist. As we continued to walk further around to the left side of the field, to the west, there was definitely more evidence of beech leaf disease. There was entire clearings that weren't clearings a year or two ago, and he was able to see from the maturation of the understory how long that canopy had been gone. And so there he agreed with the deep forester David Irving's proposal for larger patch cuts. Essentially, he called it patch cuts with reserve. So if there's some particularly healthy oaks in the patch, you leave them, but you do cut down a lot of trees. And what this does is it allows for a younger forest essentially to grow up in that patch to give more variety. Because as it stands, with a forest that is all a single age, as it starts to become more disease susceptible and climate susceptible, we could wipe out the entire forest in a year. with a couple of big storms. And so having different aged forests within the forest makes the forest more vibrant and resilient to all of the things that can damage forests. So that was the general gist. You know, I won't get into more of the details, but that was.
Was there only 2 areas, or was there a third area?
There was a third area, and kind of the last 2 I kind of merged together because they were very similar. There was more beech leaf disease. This is where the creek kind of cuts through.
Mm-hmm.
So he made some modifications to David's recommendations. But for the most part, and he actually reached out and talked to David on that day and kind of confirmed, you know, these are the modifications I'm thinking of, and David was in favor of all of his recommendations. He had some other interesting ideas that were not forest related as he walked through. This was the first time he had been through the property, and he was struck at how popular it was. When we met in the parking lot, you know, we got together, and he's like, there are so many people here at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. So this is, for him, had kind of 2 sides to it. One, he was very impressed that the Woodbridge town loves its open spaces. That is very clear. He's worked in Alice Newton before, so he's aware of how much we love our open spaces. This was just reinforcing of that. He also talked about the need for very clear communications about what we're doing with this grant. If we're going to be cutting down trees in a place that people enjoy working or being, they need to know why we're doing it and understand the ecological value of what we are doing. So I think those are the high-level notes. He had a great idea. As you come in that parking lot right by the dog park, there's like a 50-foot stretch before you get to the wetlands that's just
Mugwort.
eyeball high mugwort. And he's like, this is a perfect place for a Friends of the Conservation type group to come in, have a pulling session, rip it all out, and seed the whole place with native pollinators.
It's a great idea.
It's
That's
a great
amazing.
sunny spot, very high visibility. It's a good way to kind of get this group mobilized in something that it is hard work, but is also very reinforcing. So I thought that
It's
was
so
great.
satisfying.
Yeah.
Mugwort's wonderful.
Right?
I know.
It's so satisfying.
Everyone's a win.
And then I walked with them on the CCW. Did you walk on the country club property with them too?
Just those couple minutes before you got there.
Okay. So we had a nice walk also. Again, he knows a lot. One of the considerations for people don't know is that the CCW has a master plan, or is likely, I don't know if it's been voted on, but there's areas that are designated where there may be structures. So interestingly, the Board of Selectmen don't want the land that we're protecting, and we don't want the land we're protecting to be, we want it to stay into perpetuity, so we want to move it away from those areas. So after we walked there, but it has to fulfill the grant, which is not just meadow, it has to be forest. And some of them are just becoming meadow, but they're not really becoming forest. There's one area that is becoming forest, and after talking, I don't know if you were still there, that the idea would be, since it's, as Ben has often mentioned, it's such an important ecosystem, to have new young forests, and it has a lot of open space, I mean, a lot of sunlight, would be maybe to kind of mow it down, and then every 5 years mow down a third of it to allow the habitat for young forests to be there. And in some ways, that would be pretty easy to work with the master plan, because all we're doing is mowing it down, and if we're encroaching on that, there could be negotiations as to where the border is exactly. So, and then there's another piece that's just forest, that there's no intention of the master plan development to develop that area. And then there's another little area of white pines, and according to Eric, to thin them out would be very helpful for the health of them, and they're pretty good, it's a nice little ecosystem. And it is fairly close to the master plan, but it's not in the master plan, so maybe thinning them would be a benefit to everyone because it would look nicer and be a better environment for, in general. So I think he felt like it was very, and he also talked to Erin from the Deep, and she was concurred that this would fit the, you know, the grant stipulations, and so there wouldn't be any problem. I think he'll probably go back and make sure that all works, but,
So the part about where they're gonna mow every 5 years and reset the forest,
well,
that's...
we moved it over somewhat, but it's the question is, should we mow also the area that may be near the master plan, because it's just mowing it, which would definitely happen with the master plan, and if the master plan takes 8 years, it would still be acting as the young forest that it could be until that time that it was developed. So, I mean, I think he can move it away from there, it's not a problem, but he was thinking it's not that hard to do, those seedlings are helpful for the environment as long as there isn't anything actually happening.
So you were saying that, so I don't quite follow, so you're saying that this mowing is sort of something the town does outside of the grant?
No, it's
Or-
it's the grant. They would,
Well, the grant is a 1 year.
a 2-year,
Grant.
I think it's,
So this would be, and that's something that Eric and I talked about, is that this is a more labor intensive forest management
but
than
that's a good
just
point.
helping it grow old gracefully,
Mhm.
which is, you know, what we would be doing in Fitzgerald. He agreed with David that the ecosystem that we have there is truly unique in Connecticut. And that there are species that are no longer found in Connecticut because this ecosystem that we have on the country club is no longer present in the abundance that it used to be. He described how there's a huge number of species of birds that will nest in mature forests, but there's no bugs in mature forests. The bugs are all out in the transition lands, in the successional forests. He described it as the forest is their bedroom and the successional forest is their grocery store. And so in terms of ecological diversity, you know, doing this every 5-year brush hog mowing,
A portion of it.
resetting. Yeah, so it's
And the area where you would do that, it's outside of the development area?
yes.
I guess that's what I
Yes.
wasn't clear on.
Yes.
Okay, so he's moving the lines, but then instead of trying to, David was originally thinking we would like afforest it and grow new forest, but he's saying instead sort of keep this successional forest, which actually I think is a much better idea.
Yeah.
So the concern that David had was that wouldn't be covered under the grant, but you're saying that he called Aaron and said this type of forest
And I
practice
think we should
would be-
make sure that he makes, you know, that we double check on that.
Okay.
Because it was out in the field and, you know, but from what we understood, she
Okay.
said, yes, that fits the
Yeah, I think that's
description.
great, actually.
Yeah.
That's a better use for the site, I think. than-
Yeah, I would have the same feeling.
And it fits with the master plan of the kind of the vibe that, you know, that I took from the master plan of what they're trying to create, of
Yeah, they want,
more pastoral and kind of
Mhm.
farmland, and so keeping it in a kind of young forest in perpetuity in portions would definitely help to maintain that.
yeah, and I gotta say, the light and the beauty of it was just stunning. It was just, it had a more wild, you know, like creative and feeling to it than most land, even walking, you know, in forests in different places all over Connecticut. So it reinforced to me the kind of the vigor of it and how, now there are a lot of invasives and there will not be a lot of work to be, in addition to that, you know, there's things to do. But I think what we should also tell you is that Ben wrote a letter that solidified our recommendation, or we presented, I don't think you guys know, but we talked about that we would, to the Board of Selectmen, that we wanted a commitment from them that this land would be protected into perpetuity, or into, you know, for a long time. And then Ben solidified it into a letter and a resolution that I can share with you, and it's on Mika's desk, and he's very interested, and he's going to review it next week. I just spoke to him today, and so, I mean, he may have some modifications. We may have to make sure he understands that it's not where the master plan is, but I think he's committed. And furthermore, I walked up the road to East Rock, and Yale is overseeing 3 or 4 of these projects in East Rock. And so they had really good signage, and, you know, it does look disturbed. I think it's a kind of exciting thing. And I was wondering just how much more we could, I mean, it seemed to me from the ones in East Rock that it was waiting for the natural succession to happen, and I don't know how much, you know, helping little seedlings and planting them could encourage that transition more quickly.
I'm sorry, Sharon, I'm not hearing, you don't know how much.
So East Rock has
Yeah.
numerous fenced-in areas that are sort of the same concept and the same
yeah.
science is being applied, and it sort of implied that they were kind of, my understanding is that they're sort of waiting for seedlings to grow, and I'm just not sure how much in this grant we can help promote the seedlings we want to grow, like in the Fitzgerald property, so that we can assure the success of it.
So I asked him about planting, because it's something that David had mentioned in part of his proposal. And he said, yeah, planting trees makes more trees. But forests also make more trees.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with the proper stewardship, that we could support, you know, the forest making more trees on its own. And so that would be things like maintaining the invasive species at a minimum. That was a huge thing that he talked about, because if you start punching holes in the canopy and allowing sunshine in, the first thing that's going to grow is those invasive species that are already starting to take foot. And so he said you need to remove those before you cut down any trees. The other thing that he mentioned is that he could envision a quarterly kind of guided walk where we go through the spaces that we are managing. And if we find the oak seedlings or the tulip poplars, that we fence those off. Because one of the biggest impediments to forests growing are deer.
Yeah.
And he was able to show me, here's a seedling tulip poplar, and it's been eaten here, it's been eaten here, it's been eaten here. And so even just something like that would be much lower cost than planting trees and maintaining planted trees.
Uh-huh.
And did he mention deer fences as part of the, because David had mentioned that in a bunch of places.
Yeah, and especially
Deer
if,
fences. And that's what's happening at East Rock, is there's a
Yep.
big deer fence.
and if you walk through Alice Newton, you'll see that they've done that as well. And it's not everywhere, and it's sometimes done intentionally not everywhere, where you will kind of do 2 spots, one fencing, one not fencing, and kind of monitor how one is regenerating versus the other. But that's definitely an approach. It could be either targeted around, like, we want to support this one tree, or doing like a 50-foot area, saying we want to support this entire area regenerating. Those are both strategies that he supports.
Could an option also be, this may be a little labor intensive, but I'm just throwing it out there, like some type of deterrent which would serve as a fertilizer and a deterrent like Milorganite, which would fertilize the new growth but also repulse deer? I mean, it can be intensive because, with rains and whatnot, but nevertheless, it would
Good
maybe
idea.
of benefit. I don't know.
Worth looking into, certainly. I have a question of what would be the purpose of planting rather than allowing the forest to create forest?
I don't know that there is. I'm just
Okay.
wondering if
I didn't know whether that was an idea that had come from.
I've heard about planting. I think we'll use the forester's recommendations, and we'll
Yeah.
go with that.
And these clearings are actually good for wildlife, just to even have them there. So there's probably no need to like hurry them along. I mean, we're literally taking out the trees so that there's clearing, so we don't need to hurry up and grow more there.
Right.
We can kind of let the forest take its course, I would think.
Yeah,
Good point.
he said that the planting approach is there are camps in the forestry world. Some support the introduction of you know, if, for example, there's no red maples in, you know, Fitzgerald, but there are in Connecticut, that you could imagine bringing some new species into this particular forest. Others say this particular forest has already grown without any red maples. Why would we want to mess with that? So he seems to be leaning more in the second direction of just, you know, supporting the strengths that are already in the forest. There's a lot of really great trees in there. It's not like all of the trees are invasive and we need to kind of reset the map. We have great trees in there, and we just need to help them to survive. And so he would point out, you know, a giant 80-year-old oak tree, and it has a really strong canopy right here. And so he described that if you take out a bunch of trees around it, it allows it to get a bigger canopy. Bigger canopy produces more acorns, which feeds more wildlife, produces more oak trees, and the increased sun allows more seedlings to regenerate from the
But if
forest.
you have a bigger canopy, how do you have more sun?
Well, it takes a while to get the canopy.
Oh, okay.
Can we move on
Creates
since we
your
have
own.
But yes.
11 items?
Yep.
Okay, so, Ben, nesting boxes.
Yeah, so I'll just try to make this quick. This is this ongoing project we have to install nesting boxes in 3 sites around town. It's been approved by the town, and I finally connected with Andy Danzig from the Trail Group, and Tim is sort of getting involved. I'm not sure how much he wants to be, but now he's like getting pulled in, which is good. And I actually just ordered all the materials. So we were donated 10 nesting boxes by the Audubon Society, but I still had to buy like poles and predator guards and stuff like that. So that was more expensive than I expected. So, you know, if we have any budget, and if that's a good use of the budget, it would be nice to possibly get some reimbursement for that. It was,
Well, can we stop and maybe vote on that in a little bit and see if we want to use our sparse budget for that?
Sure.
It's July 1st, we have a new budget yesterday, so, but I think we probably, I don't quite know how the budget's written this year, I forget, but I think there's a little bit of money and this seems like a good project, so go on, but let's come back to that
Okay.
voting concept.
But yeah, so that's kind of where it's at now. I need to go pick up the materials at Lowe's, deliver them to Andy, and then we need to sort of work with the trail crew, and then also the Audubon Society is going to send some people to, you know, help the trail crew
Anyone
actually
else
do
who'd
them.
like to build them, it would be nice to do an intensive building project, right?
Yep.
I think
Especially
So
any
Adam
carpenters.
Parsons is involved in this too.
What? And
Adam
Adam?
Parsons
Oh, is he?
yes, I believe, because he asked me about them the other day,
About the boxes?
about the boxes.
Oh, great.
That's great.
What we
Word
were
is
doing
getting
and so
out.
forth and so on. And he did mention something which I didn't know, and maybe others do know, about the problem of bluebird boxes and sparrows,
Yeah.
that they
Tend to dominate them.
Yeah.
do them in.
Yeah,
Very-
I know that the Audubon Society has worked, they've done a lot of different designs, and so it sounded like maybe they had, you know, made them
Come up with something.
Crack
come up with
code.
something that would
Yep.
Yeah.
prevent, you know,
I think the
par-
size of the opening matters there.
In theory, if you have kind of metal
Yeah.
materials around the hole, then the sparrows will stay away from it. Hasn't worked at our house. We have to monitor them during nesting season. We go out there and check who's in there, who's in there, who's in there, and kick out the sparrows.
yeah,
but-
this may be
That's
something.
pretty much full-time, I guess, during,
Yeah,
during the
Dennis,
We've got
season.
4 boxes on, you know, an acre and a half, so it's fine for us, but it is an issue with the bluebird boxes.
Yeah, it's something that Dennis mentioned is that really we would want someone going out there every day and even just writing down, you know, how many eggs are there, when did they hatch, you know, so this could be a really great, you know, high school environmental project or something like that if they wanted to go and check it every day and collect data and that
You
sort
know,
of
there's
thing.
that woman who's, I met her at the fair, at that might be a good person to talk to. I forget her name, but remind me of that, and I'll try to
Okay.
get in touch with this person. So, is that all for there? Oh, so do we want to decide if we want to spend our money on nesting boxes right now? I propose that it's a good use of our money and that we should reimburse Ben.
So
Please speak louder.
Ev- Everyone just pull your microphone closer towards you. They're on these, like,
Sorry,
really
can you
cool
hear me
slidey
now?
things.
I'm proposing that we vote on a motion to spend $450 for these nesting boxes, even though it's the very beginning of our fiscal year. Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
I
Any
discussion?
discussion.
I just have a question about what is our budget for the year? $450?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about 1,000, I think.
About 1,000, okay.
That's my guess.
Okay.
I don't have it.
So we're spending half of it on bird boxes.
All right.
Or do we want to spend 200 and I'll put in 100 myself?
I would be willing to make a personal contribution
So let's.
outside of the budget.
Okay. So shall we do a $250 budget and we'll come up with the rest?
And then we'll split the rest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that sounds more reasonable.
All right. I changed my proposal to taking amended. I propose that we spend $250 of our budget to pay for nesting boxes. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Now, we have to go through the process of getting done. We'll talk about that.
All right.
Okay, VOYCE, Voice, is a new project that I think Hillary Drum is mostly in charge of, where she's been very thorough about creating the criteria for getting students from the high school to be volunteers, join different boards and not be voting members, but be contributing members. We got 3 applications, we had a deadline, and I made the choices of the first, second, and third. They're all fairly similar. I think any of them would be an asset, and that doesn't mean that those choices are the ones we actually get, depending on what else is going on, but I just want to let people know that there are people interested, and we will find out who we get in a few months. Friends of Conservation Organization, I think we've talked about that before. We're expanding it. Anybody here who'd like to be a friend of conservation can give their email to Kathy or anybody else. And we're adding it to a list. Anne Boucher is really in charge of the list, but she's not here. But you can get it to her. Okay.
Can you elaborate on that? I'm friends of.
Well, yes, but it's a very fluid concept. We're interested in people who have the predilection to want to protect the environment, because there'll be things we want to share with them. They may be ways we'd like to mobilize their physical and mental and fiscal energy. We don't quite know, but certainly creating a list of people who find it an important thing are good to communicate with and have a way to communicate with those people.
Can these be like people like we know?
Yeah.
Know and
Yes.
stuff? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Anybody.
around town, yeah.
Okay.
In town.
In town.
Okay.
I mean,
Anybody
it
in
can
town.
really be anybody out of town too.
Okay.
True.
Yeah,
it could be,
anybody.
but-
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anybody that wants to help.
That's great to know.
The idea
Okay.
is like I think your idea of getting 30 people out digging up mugwort for a day and then
Right.
doing some plantings. That
Right.
would be a fun, and it could be a potluck. I'm also secretly thinking that there could be an invasive species corps that could be a lot bigger, and I mean, I'd like to put that on the agenda next time. It is just such a huge problem that it's needs thousands of people involved. So, okay, so anybody have questions about the Friends of Conservation? No. There's dues, there's membership, there's no. Coupop, Barbara, do you have any, you mentioned already that.
That was the crux of the meeting. They
Talk louder.
listened more to more public comment, etc., and discussed the whole thing of the lighting. They still do have a few more places, which I should get, that they need to, that are publicly owned lands that they are giving recommendations to the town. And they're still working on that, but they're almost coming to the end. I think one of the big questions, well, two of the big questions that they haven't come up with their own recommendations, and we might want to weigh into this too, they ask that we do, is what I term the Meese property. It's a very large portion of property on Rimmen Road. It's right next to the property that is now being developed, that we got the back of the corridor to connect.
So for other people, it says you go out Rimmen towards the transfer station. It's about
Correct. And
a
it's
mile from Peck Road,
yeah,
out that far.
Peck Hill
And it's
and
on the
Northrop Road.
left-hand side as you're going out.
Correct.
And it's like 50 acres or 10
Oh,
acres?
it's a lot of acreage, I can't remember, but it is quite a.
So that's a potential piece of land that
That's a potential piece of land for development or whatever.
conservation,
Conservation, whatever. But that is something that no recommendation has been made yet, and they're weighing in on it, and perhaps we
Well,
should do.
maybe sometime in the fall, when things are calmed down, we could even do a site visit there and just walk the land and get
Yeah,
more
it's
educated.
pretty much just woods. And,
Well,
and
still,
there are some fields in it. I've walked it many a time, not many a time, but sometimes.
okay.
It was given originally to the town by the Mises to build a school. And the town decided that the road was too busy to have such a thing, so it's just been sitting owned by the town. It's one of the few large tracts that are left that have that kind of situation. The other one, of course, is the theater lots and what to do with them, or what is left of them. Do you know the theater lots? It's a group of very, very small, I think under 1 acre lots over. It's on Forest Road, but not the Forest Road, it's over off of Pease Road and kind of almost hanging off the edge of down to Amity. That was, I think they were given away by a theater for
As a prize.
Yeah, I think it was like
prizes
if
or
you
something.
attend a movie or something, you
could get
in a
a
raffle
chance
and you get
or a
land or
raffle.
something.
And very, very few of them have ever been built upon. There are several, and you might speak to this more than I can, there are several that they simply can't figure out who owns them, because it's been so many years, and
Records
and
weren't
they
kept
can't,
very well.
they don't have any direct line. There are a few that are owned by the town, several that are owned by the town. They've just been given to the town. They've been unused so long, and a lot of people have not paid taxes, but they don't even know who to ask to pay the taxes. It's just the families and so forth have changed so much. Anyway, it is, and it's a contiguous group with a very few that have been sold and built on, that they're trying to decide effectively what to do with them. So,
Okay.
they do have some parts of some trail, the part,
Greenway goes through
the
that.
Greenway
Yeah.
go through it, a little,
trail.
or potential connectivity, shall I say. I don't think a trail actually goes through them, but
So
there is a
and that
connectivity.
brings us to other people who've been attended or looked at other commission meetings. Does anyone have any reports for?
I had sent you the Board of Selectmen draft.
Right.
But I didn't go to the meeting.
Is there anything you'd like to notice from that?
Just that we were mentioned in it about opining, but I didn't have anything else
Okay.
concrete.
And you did your dark sky, thank you. Conservation easement on Woodbridge Country Club property, Ben and Sharon.
Yeah, we could just say that we met with the land trust to just kind of feel them out to see if they're interested in a in an easement, and they are. So we need to kind of figure out, and they asked us, what role can you guys play, and I think so. I think our role is to just sort of bring the town and them together, and kind of like figure stuff out in the background, and just sort of keep things moving. But we need to kind of figure out details, I guess, now.
Right. And what?
So if they became partial owners of the easement of this country club property, would they have a say or a veto power in how that property is managed conservation-wise? I was thinking about if we're proposing a non-passive management of that forest, if you will, if that is something that they would be amenable to.
Oh, I think so.
Depends upon what the easement says.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be
It
specifically,
would all be
okay,
put
so that would be
into
part of
an
the
easement.
language.
Yeah.
All
And
the
also,
criteria of that easement.
I think one of the
Perfect.
things that I was kind of interested in is they're also willing to possibly be involved in the stewardship of it, and
Excellent.
so, because the more I learn about the land, stewardship is actually relevant.
Yeah, and they were aware that it's going to take active management too. It's not just protect it and let it go.
Right.
They were aware that it needs, this type of ecosystem needs more active management.
And there may be some
Great.
grants available to land trust to help that.
Right.
Communication and website. Marissa, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. So as we kind of briefly discussed during our last meeting, having kind of a tab of how can I help type of thing. So I had a couple of sites that I thought maybe you guys want to look at. The focus is on composting, and there was an EPA.gov site that actually, like, if we listed the link for people, they could go get some information, and it kind of gives the background on why composting is important, and it also is sort of like a composting 101 of, like, what materials do we put in, what do we get out of it, and then the other piece too was on like gardens and focusing on pollinators, and I found a site where it's from, is it the National Wildlife Federation, I think, but I have them saved so I can pull them up for you. But in short, the ease of it was nice because it allows people to just punch in their website or their, zip code, and then it pulls in what native ecologically beneficial plants are there. So I thought that might be accessible for people, because oftentimes it's so tough to have to, like, do the legwork yourself. But I think if people can just sort of get to those areas.
And we could even have a night sky.
Yes, that was another decreased light pollution bullet. But yeah, darksky.org, I think it was.
Dark sky, yeah.
I think.
So basically, what you guys have, and I think Ben, you were involved too, that we're going to make the website for the town and the Conservation Commission part of it more of a resource for people to be able to learn stuff that could be helping them and helping the environment.
Yep.
And this is just the beginning, and it could be any number of things that might be of interest.
Yeah.
Even maybe an announcement like there'll be a mugwort
Yeah.
digging party on such and such a date. But, so are you
Absolutely.
creating the website, both of you, in a way that can be doing that?
Okay, so I didn't know if I was
Well, I don't know either.
supposed to be doing that.
So
I am a nightmare with technology,
let's just
though.
decide.
I don't know.
No, you have to follow the towns.
Yeah, Allison has to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
But so I think what we can decide now, we kind of already talked about this a little bit, is like, do you see how this is just all the commissions on the side?
Yeah.
So Allison said that we can actually have some categories here
Okay.
of our things. And
What do
so
you mean, like, under conservation, we could put night sky, dark sky.
Subpages or
yeah, it'd be
like-
basically like subpages, yeah. So,
Okay.
let me see. if there's another example.
So then maybe like the bullet point could be,
Yeah. So you see how the Board of Selectmen over here, they have CCW master plan,
Yeah.
so sort of organizing things a little bit.
Yeah, and we can also do open space plan. Are all those already on our?
So I think we just need to decide what these things should be. Like, what are our high level categories? You know,
Okay.
like maybe we want to do.
so does this need to be broader? Like this is super specific? Like we need
Yeah, I
something.
feel like that would go into like one of the categories, you know?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
resources, or I think one of the things
What
we
was
talked
it,
about
Mike?
was like get involved or something.
Okay.
Was
Yeah, and then
So-
sign up to be friends of conservation.
yeah, so you know, like maybe one of them is like the, I don't know, the country club property, or maybe like
Like-
open spaces or something.
Or documents that we've collected that are resources
Yeah.
for everyone.
Woodbridge relevant documents, so like
And
the
then-
Audubon, the bat study.
Yeah. And then get involved and educational resources or education and what's happening.
Yep.
Or, you know, things you might want to know about. And
That will require more active management
I know.
for it to be actually happening.
That's true.
Mhm.
I thought of that just as I said it. I almost shut myself up.
Which is fine. Just want to
depending on
know
who.
that.
So
Yeah.
could there be a little mini subcommittee to create those? Because I think that would be like,
Yeah, and then
and
one.
it's expandable and changeable, right?
Yeah, we just have to decide what they're going to be, and then we just ask Allison, and she'll just do it.
So it's
So
not
she's-
Allison anymore. It's
Well,
Oh.
I don't know who,
yeah. There's
Oh,
someone
it-
who just
whether
took
she
over today.
still
Okay,
does that kind of a thing.
I think-
I'm not sure
So-
what
I'm
her,
positive she's still doing it up.
yes.
Anyway,
I
whoever
mean,
the
she's
powers,
pretty,
whoever
pretty
has.
much
Mhm.
over in the,
Well,
the
would
new
anybody be
Mhm.
willing to
cultural
get together and present something for next month? Just a little outline.
but she
of
might be
our
doing
ideas?
all the promotion too. I don't
I have no idea,
really know.
but
In conjunction with this,
Or maybe we do a work session next week.
I'd like to bring up the thought that somehow we need to get out to the public to go on the website to find out all kinds of things, because they just simply don't realize that information is available. And I know it's in general for the whole town, but still, if we could start somehow pushing,
once we get it set up.
Yeah.
That's a
Let's,
great.
let's make it a
that's
place they
great
want to be
point.
before we tell them to go there.
no, oh yes, absolutely, I agree completely, but
But,
I think
yeah.
that it is part of the thing, because there's a lot of information that
Yeah.
they just don't realize is there,
Mm-hmm.
even now.
Well, maybe we have a brainstorming session. I mean, everyone has their thoughts, and maybe if people don't want to do a subcommittee, we could actually take 20 minutes and make the decision next time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm open to either way.
Mhm. I mean, do you want to like take a first stab at it, Marissa, and
Yeah,
just
I'd be happy.
you know
to.
just because sometimes it's easier to just like
Yeah.
edit an existing thing
Right.
than
So okay, but am I doing this through this point of contact first?
You have to do.
Okay.
well.
No,
right,
just-
right now, just a Word document with
Oh,
what are
okay,
the,
okay,
the,
yeah,
the
give me
different
direction.
You gotta
headings
put onto the
and
site.
what are the,
Yeah.
the sub ones.
Okay, so we're gonna come up with a draft then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
we're just
That's
coming
And
helpful.
then,
Okay.
and then we'll
It
reach
doesn't
out.
have to be
By
a
next month, I should know who you're going to say.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so just
Thank you.
it's
I-
just like what what are the headings and what's going to be underneath it.
Okay.
And then, you know,
Yeah, and you can call
Just
each
sort
of
of
us
a-
and get
an
our
outline,
ideas too, if
basically.
you
Okay.
want. I mean,
Yeah.
Excellent.
I
Okay.
think that because you're new, you might not know that we have all these documents. So
Yeah, I
Ben
didn't
can rattle
really,
that
like,
off,
yeah.
and Mike can.
yeah, we can definitely provide input.
Yeah,
Okay, that would be
and
great.
then so next meeting we're gonna do website.
Okay.
Okay, and Marissa. Okay, and anything else with communication? I think that's a big step, is to get the website.
It would be a huge step if we get
For
this
mankind.
organization done, because we've been talking about it
And
since
yeah.
I've been here.
It's gonna be-
since I started.
It's gonna be fluid, right? So we can always
You can
evolve
change
it.
all the
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah.
Whoever's going to be the one that.
Like it's
Allison
Kathy's
wants to
birthday
write.
kind of
You
thing.
email her, you say, I want this added to my page, bing,
Uh-huh.
bam, boom, she goes in, she does it, you're done.
Okay.
Say, this is how you can move that on, you
So
tell her what.
maybe as we do it, you can become the liaison for her to, so there's not all of us.
But once we find out if it's still her or not, because I don't know.
No, but that Marissa, whoever it is,
Right.
could be the
Right, right.
person who communicates.
Hopefully I'll know
with
that by
whoever it
next month.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll
Now,
work on a draft.
This brings us to something that's not on the thing, is the next meeting is in August. Are we wanting, sometimes people don't have meetings in August, so, I mean, I'll put that at the end of the meeting, but just be thinking about that. Open Space 490. So a few people have gotten back to me about, in the general community, realizing how important that is to start having us work on. So I think it's a little late right now, but maybe if we have less, it seems like we might have, well, we're gonna have stuff with the DEEP grant next month for sure. But maybe we can do open space too. What would we do?
What do we want out of this discussion?
Well, I think we want a little paper or something on the website, but also just something we can share with people as to someone doing research to think, what are the pros, what are the cons? How can we engage people with land to be
What is
interested?
it?
What
I
is
mean,
it?
I'm not asking what it is.
No, I know, but, yeah, exactly. And, and maybe there's people that we, even in town, who know a lot about it, that already have that information and could just share it with us.
Is there something
I mean, I can
specific
give
about it?
basic-
I mean, this is a state program?
No, it's a town
It's
program.
a town,
Oh, it's a town program. Okay, so there's,
There's a state concept, and they have a booklet that I have.
yeah, I remember
That
that.
talks about it, that's pretty involved. But it's for towns to administer, from what I understand.
Oh, I see. So,
if they want.
So it's not like they
if
could just-
They want to have it.
okay, so they actually need this because it's sort of town specific.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this town does have it.
Okay.
So
And
the
I
town
think
doesn't
there's
have
a
anything
certain
on the website
urgency to-
anywhere else?
Oh, good question.
who knows?
Good question.
Who knows?
Very good question.
Nobody's attracted to look at it. I mean, I just know it from personal experience.
Okay.
And it does further help us with housing, because the more land that's in farmland, the less our housing requirement is. Okay, so are people okay with that being something we put into
I
next,
mean, I can
meeting?
come up with
That would be great, Barbara.
what it is and
And who we, the
how-
audience,
how
or,
it's done and what.
Whose
That would be
house, why,
great.
and what's.
Yeah, like
That'd
a
be
quick
great.
Google search for Town of Woodbridge, PA 490 does not bring back any useful results. So
okay.
yeah,
So-
if this is a town specific thing.
And also, it could be on our website
Yeah.
and refer to other places.
Mhm.
Okay. New business, review of Woodbridge Board of Selectmen strategic plan. I can't say that I've done a lot with that. Has anyone?
I clicked and sent.
What?
I clicked and sent. I saw it and said, I'm sending this to someone smarter. But I
Maybe
thought
we
it might
should
be something
put
we
that.
should.
I think we should. And also, really, the POCD got altered a lot towards the end, and it was supposed to come up for re-review, and it was put on hold because of the transit district stuff. And I think come September, we should re-raise it and re-review it and give someone our recommendations. And I think
Yeah,
that's.
September after the grant is done.
Yes, I think that, right, and I don't think anybody is clamoring from TPZ to do anything about it before then. Updates and comments from commissioners? Okay, so,
I did have one thing that I
Oh.
didn't bring up before about the 11th that I think we should, maybe.
you mean the picnic?
Allison, is planning on having a section, I think she's got Tim involved, with all of the maps and the whole thing about the trails around town. And
I have a tablecloth.
And, yeah, well, there we go, we need that. And I think we should sort of be part of it as far as the QR is concerned. it's not I that can do it because I've got 4 other tables in the same room.
Well, maybe we can contact Valerie. She did such a good job.
That's a great idea.
So Valerie. Okay, so I might call a few of you and see if you have time to be there. But I don't know that it always has to be manned either. That would be better.
No, I have a feeling he'll be there, but I think just whatever, since it's the commission's program, I think,
Okay, call Allison.
you know, obviously we're gonna need some of the brochures, et cetera,
Uh-huh.
there, so, and maps and so.
I think we had some leftover after Earth Day, if I recall.
We have what?
We had some leftover.
Okay.
Maps.
Good.
So what I think we need to have an August meeting, given the grants. How do other people feel about it? I don't know, what's the first Monday, the first Thursday in August is? Maybe we can take another month off.
The 6th.
The 6th,
6th. Okay,
Yes.
and then September 3rd, that's 3 days after the 31st.
Yeah, if we're not meeting in August, then
the grant will be due before we meet ever again.
yeah, so there would have to be subcommittee work, and it would not be approved by the commission.
Right.
Well,
Are you
could
here
we-
August 6th, Ben?
Could we do it,
I'm around.
I wonder if we should do it closer to the 31st. If that's possible.
We could call
Oh.
a special meeting.
Yeah.
I won't be around actually.
What?
Schedules, we have
On
to
the
check
6th?
schedules. We can't just say we want a different day.
We could,
Doesn't work
we
that
could
way.
propose a special
But
meeting.
still, I'm not back till Tuesday, so we won't know that till Tuesday. So,
Well, we could just keep it where it is. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually out of town.
Most of the rest of the month.
Yeah, the rest of the month, so.
Rest of this month and all of August.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't realize that.
It will be a motivation for us to get some work
There
done
we
on the
go.
grants
Mhm.
before that meeting, so that
Yeah.
we have
Yeah,
And
that's,
we could-
that's a good point.
Maybe have, yeah, a way to communicate. Okay, so we're on for the, so do we have a quorum? Are 4 of us able to be there? Okay, cool. All right. Anything else anyone else wants to discuss? Does anyone want to adjourn our meeting?
motion to adjourn.
Mike,
Anyone want
who's
to
gonna
second
second?
it? We all want, everyone else wants to stay.
I will second.
Second, thank you, Ben.
All in favor?
7:56.
Done.
We're all second.